Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending upon where you are coming to us from. I am Robin Rice Olmsted.
And I am Gil William Olmsted, and we are here with you today once again for something we like to call Rockin' the Love.
Rockin' the Love.
Yes, indeed.
And we're here, and Shay's here.
Shay's
Welcome,
here.
Shay.
All right. Good afternoon. So, we like to talk about relationships on this show, and relationship, which, technically is doggone near everything. Relationship with me, with you, with someone else, with my whatever. My whatever. My car.
I thought you were going to say your beard. Your relationship
My
with your
beard.
beard. Anyway, that's what we do. We'd love for you to stick around. Today we are going to be talking about the myth of effortless love.
Oh no. It's not true?
What is true? The myth of effortless love.
Well, living in New Mexico, they say New Mexico true. So I don't know. Something must be true, right?
Well, living in New Mexico, they also tell you you're in the land of enchantment. So I'm not saying I don't like it here. I'm just saying enchantment, that's a big thing to deliver on. So who knows? True is relative, but we'll see what's true for you if you stick around and discuss the myth of effortless love. Full disclosure, we will tell you today we are producerless. Therefore, that means you are prone to not as smooth a show as usual, but who knows? I'm not claiming that for myself. I'm just letting you know that you may have a glitch and a glimmer here or there. So there you have it. We're sorry. We apologize.
And in advance.
So, ready to move on. How was your week?
How was my week? Oh my gosh. My week's been all right. It's been good. I had a day off at the beginning of the week, which actually took, and so that was really nice. Been running around doing a lot of little things, doing a lot of little stuff at home, and it's all good. So overall, it's been a good week. What about you?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. How was your week? Yes. You have one.
Well, no, you said that no. Overall, it's been a good. I said yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's been a good week. As you all know, we're winding down from really busy time, which means it's still really busy, but not as busy as it was. So we're just trying to kind of find a new normal. We have listeners out there who have threatened that they're going to take up a fund to send us on vacation, and
which, by the way, we didn't argue with.
And I was going to say, yeah, we fully support that. So anyway, yeah, I think it's good. We're gonna be going to California in a week or so, and I think that will be good, even though it's not a relaxing trip. We got some business to take care of. I got a dentist to see. We got some memorials to go to and things like that. But we'll also get to be with friends and family, and that's always good. So I'm looking forward to it. It's so, this could be a show topic. Like, why is it so hectic and hard to leave? Like, there's so much to be put into place to make sure that everything's running. Like, it makes you need another vacation.
Yeah. As you said that, what comes to me is that I think in part because I don't quite have it down normally, that's what makes it so much worse. Because I'm always feeling like I'm not quite caught up, not quite ready for whatever. And so if I'm leaving, then it has to be ready for when we go. And whether that's, the state of our house or whether it's the state of work situations or the state of whatever it is, it kind of feels like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Do y'all feel like that?
Are we the only ones?
Are we the only ones? Let us know. Like leaving on a vacation or a trip is a big deal. It's like there's just I don't know. It's like a whole nother job to get ready. Anyway, that's what's up for me. So amidst all of that, there is good news.
There is good news. Should I start?
And it's time for you to tell it. Yes?
All right. Well, there are a group of birds on an island near where all the Great Lakes drain out into the ocean. And they have been being studied for the last 55 years. And they've been measuring the level of the chemical class PFAS, which is a very toxic chemical. It's actually a group of chemicals, and they're all very toxic. Interestingly, though, we began to see the rise of these showing up in bird eggs, which was affecting the ability of the eggshells to be thick enough and all these kinds of things. And it was rising in the 60s and 70s, and we realized this is happening. And so we began the process of trying to get legislation in place. And we did finally legislate that these things needed to be dealt with. And we couldn't allow them to continue because they were dangerous for everybody. So we had to limit their use and figure out how to make them safe and all those things. Well, they peaked out in around 2000, and since 2000 they have dropped 70% in terms of how much they're finding them in the eggs of the herons on this island, or the garnets. So it's a good news story because, in fact, taking the time, changing our systems when we realize we've done something that isn't working as well as we thought it was, and regulating it actually helps our environment and our animals.
So it's good news that people are becoming aware and paying attention.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think people think, I mean, we often think, well, we've already done the damage, or, it's not worth it to cause an industry or whatever to have to figure out some other way to do something because, they have something already. And what we're seeing here is over a 55-year period, which is not that much less than my lifetime, that there's been a huge rise and then fall because of that whole cycle. And sometimes we think if it's not going to happen next year or in 2 years, it's not worth it. But it took 25 years to show the major decline.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's the thing about so much of the good news that we talk about is we can't see the immediate benefits of it, but we can see the trajectory of it.
That's interesting because I think that is the allure of bad news. Is that so often you see there's something right in the moment that looks horrible.
Yeah.
And we don't see any larger picture.
Okay, well, it sounds like next week we'll be speaking about the allure of bad news.
The allure of bad news.
All right. My story is about helping children laugh can make their brains more resilient and learning easier.
Oh.
Yeah, and I mean, we all have heard, laughter is the best medicine and all those kind of things, and I think it's really true. There's a doctor that conducted extensive studies into how laughter and play really contribute to a healthy brain growth and emotional well-being and social bonding. And she's an early childhood expert, and she has a book called The Brain Loves to Laugh, but it's really about helping children navigate life's challenges and handle stress better. And, I think even as adults, we can say hope and humor help us as well navigate situations. but in children, it really can help lay that healthy development. And it decreases the stress hormones, cortisol and epinephrine, and increases happiness chemicals, the dopamine and the serotonin and the endorphins and all of that, which can strengthen the immune system and improve memory. And it just, the studies suggest that laughter plays just a significant role in brain activity, as humor is a cognitively demanding and engages that neuroplasticity. So, it's just a great thing. It challenges the brain to predict and resolve the tensions and between conflicting ideas, and gives you that mental workout. And I think this is not in the article, but I think that's true for all of us. And so obviously in children, if they can become prone to almost using that as a tool, then it will also help them go forward in a different way.
Well, and we know from years of different doctors prescribing this. If any of us watch Patch Adams, we know the story. The Robin Williams movie was all about this concept of working with kids who were sick and treating them with humor and laughter in essence. And I think, the plus side of this story is to remind us that, in fact, we don't have to wait until somebody isn't doing well. We can support their growth and their positivity ahead of that.
Right.
Making sure that there's fun and play and laughter involved in their lives.
Right. And you can see how with children, especially, it's not really about the jokes, but it's the simple shared play and laughter between like parents and kids, with like eye contact and smiles and close proximity. They all foster that connection, and that being able to connect, which is what we talked about a lot of our kids missed during COVID.
That's true.
If they were in school at a certain point in time when COVID hit, which our kids were in like middle school or elementary school, they didn't, it's that time when they fostered connection and had that opportunity to play with each other and problem solve and be resilient and all of those things. So you could see where having it in the household especially would be beneficial. So,
and obviously kids understand this because they naturally find everything funny.
Especially parents until they're teenagers.
But they do, though. I mean, things happen, and they think it's great when when something falls off the table and lands on the floor and stuff. It's very fun, and we try to teach them out of it, if you will, convince them that that's not funny. It's not funny.
Well, and also through humor, it's like they say in here that when we're carefully finding those gentle ways to introduce joy and hope and ease the burden on their nervous system, that can even help youngsters who have already experienced extensive trauma. And it also reduces the cognitive load. It makes complex information more digestible, and it's the refresh on the educational paradigm kind of thing. And that's what we do when we're teaching or when we're in workshops. We're constantly turning it around to reprogram the brain and be interested in, so using humor as that intermediate, what do I want to say, that, like that alarm, that I don't know, triptych is what I keep thinking.
Triptych?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that word in a while.
That's all I could think of. But that's what it is. It's like it snaps your brain out, and there you are. So that's the story in the good news area. Yay. I want to give a shout out there to say hi to Sue Klump and Leah Cohen and whoever's joining us. These are just the people I can see. I see there's more of you out there, and we're glad you're here, even if you don't reveal who you are.
I don't see them. I can't see them.
It's because you're older than me.
Oh.
All right. Anyway, so we are going to take a break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about the myth of effortless love. And I see out there, Shay let us know that she is kind of on our team there, that she gets major anxiety traveling. So, yeah.
Oh, well, what you were describing, we haven't got to the traveling part. We were just trying to get ready. So, I don't know.
Well, it's all one. It's all a process. Anyway, so don't go away. Stay here. We'll be back after a few short commercials, probably even shorter today than usual, since our producer's not here. And we'll see you back here, right on here on New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk. Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.
Oh my gosh, we're back.
Hello, and welcome back to Rockin The Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we are happy to be with you this afternoon, this evening, this morning, wherever you are. And we are talking about, what are we talking about? What's it called?
The effortless myth.
The myth of effortless love. The myth of effortless love. Wow, what does that mean? What's a myth?
Well, today we're taking on the myth that's, shaped a lot of relationships. The idea that love should be effortless, that, we're told that if it's meant to be, it'll be easy, and, we love somebody just because they're our family and all those kind of things. But is that true? Is that true?
Well, it depends on who you're trying to love, perhaps. Some of us don't make it easy. It's our mission to challenge those around us.
Well, I think also we're told that if it's meant to be, that it'll be easy.
Yeah.
But real love, I mean, the kind of love that grows us and heals us and takes hold of us, that requires intention and presence and practice. And I don't think effort is a sign of something being wrong necessarily. I think it's a sign that something matters.
Mm.
So that's what we're going to explore.
So, okay. So when you say effort, you meaning putting the effort in. Meaning if we actually are investing effort, then that may be a sign that it's worthwhile versus the fact that it's really that hard. Because the reality is, all relationship to continue is going to require effort.
Well, what doesn't require effort?
What doesn't require effort? I don't know. That's a good question. I cannot think of a valid answer in this moment.
Right. I mean, it's
right.
an open-ended question. I'm sure we could come up with something, but I mean, many times we'll hear somebody say, loving you it doesn't require any effort. I call it bullshit.
Loving you is easy.
But you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, maybe that's 98% of the time, but there are other times. I mean, here's the truth of that is that it's not always about you. It's about can I love me in the moment to love you. Mm-hmm. So, and that takes effort.
Mm-hmm.
It takes like I said, I don't think effort is bad. I just think
that's a really good point. That in thinking about this concept, that truly to be able to be in a space of loving someone else, we have to be dealing with our own loving ourselves, and that could be where a bulk of the effort goes. Sometimes is into getting through whatever that stuff is. The other person isn't necessarily the issue. It's just that I have to get through my stuff to be able to be open to the other person, if you will, whoever else it is I'm trying to relate to.
Yeah, and I think because of that, I think it's also one of the most seductive and destructive myths that we can have, because it sounds so romantic and like everybody wants that, and that's what we've grown up with in rom-coms and all the stories that we love. But then it also sets up that space for people to feel like failures if their relationship isn't going the way that they've envisioned it.
Right. And when you think of, just for instance, you mentioned rom-coms, you think of movies and stuff, you've got an hour and a half or 2 hours, and how much time does that movie cover? And therefore, how much are you seeing of the life of those people, right? When we see a documentary on somebody's life, how much of that life are we seeing? We're seeing the parts that someone has decided were uplifting or that were important or whatever it is. We're not seeing all of it, and all of it is where this myth comes into play, because it's not always roses and butterflies.
Well, and it's not supposed to be. I mean, is it supposed to be? I think that it's not supposed to be all roses and flowers and all of that. And I mean, this is why if you're watching the rom-com appropriately, there's a pivot point where there's a problem. That we learn to move through. I mean, love isn't supposed to be effortless. It's really supposed to be alive. It's supposed to be in the moment. It's supposed to be awake. And anything that's alive requires attention. It requires taking care of. It requires, shift and change and being able to adapt to those moments.
So any of you out there, we would love to hear from you regarding your experience with running into this myth, and where perhaps by um, by allowing it to be a myth rather than subscribing to it, you are able to move through something really important. I think, there's so many times when, as you said, Robyn, that this type of idea that's put into our minds or promulgated by those around us becomes, it stops us from actually getting to the place we need to get to.
Right.
Right? Because we give up too soon. It shouldn't be this hard.
Right. It creates that space, that harm where that makes people think if something's hard, it must be wrong. If we argue, we're not compatible.
Right.
If I have needs, I'm too much. If they don't automatically know what I want, then they don't love me. I'm working on that one.
Well, interestingly, as we were saying that, it was striking me that the exact opposite myth is also a major issue, and that is the myth that love is always painful and hard. And when people take that on as their belief, then they're stuck in places where they aren't actually able to grow and expand and become larger because they're in something that's always in conflict. And so the reality is that the myth is that it's one way or the other, when in reality it's neither way, it's both ways all the time. You're always going through it's always the roller coaster. You're always either headed up the hill or down the hill or around the corner, but you're not sitting there on some kind of flat thing just chugging along.
Right.
That's not how it works, because we always have to keep working through the various things which allow us those places of great freedom, and then we hit those spots where we have to really, add a little more effort.
Yeah, and I think much like we call the show Rockin The Love. So there's so many interpretations that one could have about that. And I think that, love takes on so many different ways and possible ways it looks. And I think, in this conversation, there's a difference between, effort and intentional loving or conscious taking care of or being attentive to, and effort versus struggle, versus pain versus chaos versus misalignment, disrespect, whatever that is. And I think it's important to establish like the healthy love patterns. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I think your word struggle is really a good word, because that's more that other side, that it's always hard, it's always painful, it's always a struggle. And when we go into relationships, or when we are walking in that manner, we're expecting pain. And so we're willing to take more of it at a certain level, but we're also finding it in places where it probably doesn't exist, because we're taking things personally. We're seeing it as whatever that person does, it's because they're doing it to me, as opposed to that's just whatever's happening for them, and all of that. And so as we move into a more mature level of love, we begin to understand that love is about us understanding ourselves enough to be compassionate and understand someone else enough that we don't have to buy into every single situation in a relationship as a indicator, if you will, of the health or well-being of our lives together.
Right. And I mean, to that, I would say too, I mean, so we're talking about, now we're talking sort of about healthy love versus, I don't want to say unhealthy love, but we're talking about healthy love, and what that requires. And that requires, communication. It requires curiosity. It requires a presence of really being in the moment and not living off the past of what you thought or what your former partner did or what your former boss did. I mean, it requires that curiosity to live into the new moment, and it requires emotional regulation, and then it requires choosing each other again. If we're talking about partnership, it requires evaluating in that moment and being able to release whatever is happening and choose each other, and I would say, and yourself again, to check in, to be able to check in and you know um, rest into the situation or whatever, and then choose your partner again. I mean, we're complex. Humans are complex. There's so much, and everybody does it differently, and everybody brings different qualities, and everybody brings a packed bag of baggage with them, that of what they've experienced. Not that it's bad, it's just that it is.
Well, it's either a bag of what they experienced or possibly a bag of their supplies so they can get out, or whatever that those bags are. They're all there. Yeah, we bring them all into the relationship with us. Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about the places where love is actually effortless.
Okay.
Like, where is somewhere for you that love is effortless?
That's a hard question, actually.
Okay, it's an easy question for me. So
Okay, then you answer it. Let's see if I can.
for me, it's effortless to see you, to be with you, to know when you're coming home, to feel my body get excited, and really, feel when I'm around you most of the time, so that it's safe. My body softens. I'm not on alert. It's safe. You're my person. So I think it's for me, that's effortless. I mean, it's effortless, like when we're laughing,
Mhm.
and enjoying, and in that moment, and it just comes without trying. We're just in sync like that, and the comfort of having been with you for this long. I mean, so there's a comfort that you know me, that I know you, even when that's uncomfortable. It's still a basic comfort, because it's that safety, and from all these years of showing up through all kinds of things. But that's the kind of effortless ease that's earned.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
It's
It's
not.
some. You're right.
It's the fruit of the work that we've put in. But I think also when you're in a new relationship, I think there's similar things that happen that allow you to know yourself, and to be able to begin to create that space.
Well, I think there's certainly a level at which, we step into something with someone, we are open to what's possible in a way, because nothing has been disproven yet. Nothing has happened to make me think, well, maybe that's not possible. Maybe
Yeah.
that's not who they are. Maybe that's not the truth. And I think that's true of all the relationships with people. We walk in and we take the time to just be open to who's there and what's happening, right? And then it's not a matter of it being hard to love somebody because they're just a person and all we are is showing up.
Right. All right. Shay says, one of the only times love is effortless for me is with my own self. Also, in more superficial and long distance relationships with friends like you guys, that's effortless. There's not enough intimacy to create a bunch of conflict.
Yeah. Interesting. That's an interesting point, Shay, or thought about how there's not enough intimacy to create conflict. So, does intimacy create conflict, or does intimacy create the potential for conflict? Because now we know somehow we have greater expectations. We think we know each other better. We think we know how they will respond, or we have an expectation of how they should support us, or whatever it is, because of the level of relationship. That's an interesting point. And I think that's definitely true. As you, in some ways, relationships become less effortless because of the fact that we grow in closeness with one another, and so our expectations change, our abilities, our trust factors, shift, because I think we put so much trust in that sometimes if there's anything that knocks on that trust a little bit, then that kind of freaks us out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I keep waiting for her to answer. Yeah, it does. I mean, I feel like we're talking.
Help me out, Shay.
No, I think that's an interesting thing to bring up because, yeah, obviously with intimacy and relationships, we become more vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And
yet being vulnerable is the key to love. At some level, we can't experience love that's at a deeper level than the level of intimacy that we are experiencing with people in a certain way.
yeah,
I mean, I can see them, I can be there, blah blah blah, but I can't. That feeling of love,
Yeah. Shay says, yes, it reminds me of Don Miguel Ruiz's books. He talks about how we're all wounded and we touch each other's wounds, and we can't do that if we're not in close relationship.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we can't do that if we're not in close relationship with ourselves, because we're ever changing. We're constantly evolving. We need, to be aware of where we're coming from in each moment, because there's days where we're coming from our wounds, we're coming from our hurt, we're coming from our space, and so it's like it's not an equal playing field for the partner or for whoever's there. For them to have to decipher, and yet they do, or they hold the space, or they, going back to Don Miguel Ruiz's books, it's not personal. It's right. We have to live in that. It's not personal. It's never personal. It's about them. It's about us. It's about, them to us. Not two people. Huh. Shay, you're funny. Shay says, lo and behold, she's not in one. Big surprise. And yet you are. You're not in a committed relationship. But, all the little relationships too, it's like you're in the big relationship. You're in the relationship with yourself. And that's That's what leads to the next relationship. And trust me, sister, there will be days when you wish you were just in the relationship with yourself. So, anyway, but
Is that one of those effortless days?
I'm not going there anymore. Okay. Well, okay. So the effortless days. But this also to me brought up like the Brene Brown quote that we like to use. About she said everyone says that marriage should be 50-50. It's the biggest crock of bullshit I've ever heard. It's never 50-50. And she goes on to say, what we do is we quantify where we are. So if Steve, her husband, comes home and says, I got 20, I'll say, I got you, I'll pull the 80. And when we're both running low, we sit down and make a plan of kindness towards each other. And on some level, that's, I think, the heart of relationships, in that we expect them to be the same or to look the same. And they can't, because we're always coming from a different place, right?
Well, and it's all about energy. So we are always finding ourselves at a different energy place in our lives based on what's been happening, whether we've been physically active or emotionally active or mentally active. And all of those things can create factors that shift our energy and our ability to cope in particular ways, and they may, being physically active may at some level actually increase our ability to be emotionally present, et cetera, et cetera. Or we may be drained to the point where we can't pay attention. So it can go either way depending on what's going on. But those energy changes are, as she said, when one of you shows up and goes, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have it. I don't have 50% to put into this. I don't even have 30 today. Then we've got to figure out how to move forward from there. And if we don't acknowledge it as people, we don't acknowledge and we don't give people some slack when they are at that lower end of things, then if we're not willing to put in a little extra effort in those times, then we're not going to come through it well.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because we think not only should it be effortless, but at the very least it should be fair. It should always be fair. You should have to do as much as I have to do. I shouldn't have to do more than you. And so we get in that place of quantifying and deciding that, well, if I have to put in 80%, then that's not fair, and I'm not going to play.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I think that happens for a lot of people. We're like, no, it's not. I shouldn't have to work this hard. You need to step up. You need to do your part, right? But when the point comes when I can't do my part, what do I do then?
But I think, yes, I agree with you. And what this bringing up for me is like almost like love languages and just different ways of thinking, different ways of being. Because when you said that, like, work is hard, or, make as much money or do those things. And because I was thinking, well, what would I want in a relationship? Where do I need the balance? And I'm like, mine is fun. So like, we don't even know, not we, us, but we don't always know in a relationship, like even what the values of the relationship are to be able to uphold them for each other.
Mm.
I straight up told you in our wedding vows what my values were. I said, fun and romance forever and blah, 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 blah. You probably don't remember because because you probably don't. But I mean, I think there's different levels at which relationships can function, and then they become a lot of effort because you're trying to figure things out that haven't maybe been communicated.
So if maintaining romance forever requires you to put 80% of the work in, that doesn't feel fair, right? That feels like I'm not doing my part. I'm not honoring that value.
Say that one more time.
If you're the one having to put in 80% in order to maintain that romance, then you would feel like I'm not doing my part. I'm not putting in the effort to support that value.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, so
But
I'm just getting at the point that that's the kind of thing I'm talking about right there.
Right.
That's exactly it.
But also, I mean, but I think the important part there is I don't think people always know that. I don't think people, in order to make a relationship,
They don't even realize where
like it goes back to in the perfect relationship, the perfect person should just know. It should just be like this. And they should know, that's why it's perfect. Because
because they see me.
And also, what the person did on the first date or two or three, or during the 6 month, pre, commitment-ish stage, was from a different place and not really necessarily knowing the full value of what that means or what is needed. I mean, like we've had the conversation about you need different things in the relationship than I do, which isn't bad. It's just the way it is, and so I think being clear on them, will help stop those myths of like, oh my God, they don't know anymore. It's not right. Or, whatever. I think it speaks more to that one needs to put in the effort and that love is intentional. We have to be intentional. Therefore, that means letting everybody know what our intentions might be.
So, she has an interesting comment. Living with chronic pain makes it nearly impossible to have the bandwidth to deal with anyone. Dating is ridiculous. I love that line, by the way, Shay. So, we usually don't get past the first couple of conversations. But I think, you're thinking about living with chronic pain, living with something in our lives which has a tendency to consume our energy and our effort does pull away from our ability to invest that in something else, and sometimes we have to make choices. Sometimes we have to figure out how to live with that shift in energy. But either way, whether we're in a relationship or not, or whatever, but the relationships that we're in are affected by that. Our ability to communicate and come from a place of compassion and all those things can be greatly affected by how physically our body is feeling particularly when it's on a regular basis. You talk about something chronic, because we don't even realize how much energy we're expending just to keep ourselves upright, if you will. I've had that with a couple different things in my life where I had some physical thing where it was like, I didn't realize until after it was over how much energy I'd been expending just to maintain, and so, I'm pretty sure I was not as pleasant, forgiving, whatever those things are, with other people during those periods. Because
did you want verification?
Thank you. Whew, boy.
This is my job. I got 100% for you on that, baby. Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's all fascinating, and I think that, you know, if I could invite viewers to walk away with one thing from this conversation, I think it's part of it is about, you know, defining the myth for yourself. You know, like what is it that you expect in a relationship, and how are you willing to support that, you know, and really, you know, I think especially in this day and age, you know, we have the awareness that we get to think and recreate and open things up to a different understanding than we've had before. It doesn't have to look like, you know, our parents did, or, you know, or any of that, you know, or who on TV is telling us how to do what. But we really need to find our space.
Well, I think the key takeaway for me is not to fall victim to the idea that it's not really love unless it's totally easy. It's not. There's not really a relationship unless, you know, you're always understanding one another and you always make sense to each other, because it's just not. That's just not true. It's not the way things are. And so give yourself the space to experience connection and love without it having to be perfect.
Yes, well said. And I would just say too that, you know, effort, take a look at that word, you know, because I think it's love isn't, you know, effortless, and it is intentional. And what does it take for you to be intentional? And it may not always look, you know, the way you want it to, but I think, you know, we've got to let go of effort being a burden in a relationship, that it's really a blessing. It's the way we get to open up and really learn about our partner and say, you know, you matter to me. Your view, your thought, your need matters to me, and we get to grow from there.
All right.
So we invite you to grow into your week. Look for that place where you're putting in a little more love, you know, or it feels like you're putting in a little more work, and just, you know, see what it all comes down to.
And don't get stuck in the myths that we're taught about how things should be. I think that's the biggest thing.
There you go. So just keep choosing love, everybody. Keep practicing love and keep rocking the love. And we will see you next week. And sending big love to our producer, Michael Mangus, knowing that right where he and his wife, Diana, are, all is well. We'll see him next week. Love y'all. Bye.
Bye now.